answers, I suppose.
I
Or
don't think so. Anyway, hey, Morena family, here we are on the sofa with Sally Ann. I've got Josh Van Lier with me, and he is going to be in the hot seat first. Josh, why are you standing for election?
so my main thing is I've been working in environmental science for the last 10 years and got into that because wanted to idealistically sort of, save the world kind of things. But having worked in the science for a while now, it's pretty clear that that's in quite safe hands. It's the decision makers who are kind of squandering the opportunities or not taking advantage of what we could be doing better to reduce carbon footprint, save biodiversity, those sorts of things. So in Lower Hutt particularly, I see a real gap in terms of an option for people to vote for on those fronts, and given my background, given my future, given our future, this is why I'm running for council, to make real change on climate change and biodiversity crisis that we're currently experiencing.
Brilliant answer. Okay, sticking with the tough questions, do you have a...
Inflatable arm flailing tube man kind of.
Okay, nice.
Something silly like
Oh,
that.
good.
Yeah.
I have a friend...
A bit of a seaweedish kind of.
I have a friend who's very into that, so maybe we can get you both on the dance floor one day. Now, what is the number one issue that you see facing Lower Hutt that you really want to tackle?
Lower Hutt, for me, would be transport, and again, seen through the lens of climate change. I take the train every morning, and as I go past, I see State Highway 2, turning State Highway 1, just backed up all the way along the Esplanade, all that stuff as well. So I think if we can, first off, get an extension of the rail system at least through to Courtenay Place, if not eventually the airport, then that provides a realistic option for people to be using public transport a lot more, because people don't, because they can't get to where they want to go. We've got a public transport system that ends at the northern edge of the CBD, whereas like 70% of the region's economic activity is past that in the whole CBD-ish area.
I've always thought that was crazy.
Yeah, so, and it's crazy if you look at just the density factor. You take 200 cars off the road, that's one carriage on a train, and all of a sudden you ease congestion, you improve air quality, you save a lot of money as well. It's $126 a month for my travel costs, whereas it used to be that a week driving in and out.
Wow, okay. Again, with the hard questions, do you have a party trick?
Yes, sort of alluded to it slightly before. It is the backflip. It has gotten slowly worse and worse over the years, but I did gymnastics when I was very young because I wanted to learn to backflip, and that has just kind of been my go-to whenever I'm out slightly inebriated or anything like that.
Do you think this is something you'll get out on the campaign trail?
If I'm asked, yes, I will bring it to the...
Keep that in mind. Now, what are two top actions that you would look to committing to protect and restore nature?
So probably the first one that I'm really big on with my aquatic science environment background would be sort of this Blue Belt initiative. Thomas Nash and I from Wellington have been talking about setting up around the entire Wellington region coast, which would be this spatial network of marine reserves as well as sort of designated areas for everyone who enjoys divers, fishers, people who just like going for walks on the beach. But this would enhance biodiversity in a massive way if you sort of select the right spots, because currently 3 of our 5 major habitat types within the marine coastal environment are either not protected in our marine reserves or very poorly represented in them. So that would be one big one, and massively involved in that are kelp forests, which we have a heap of, particularly up the Wairarapa Upper Coast. And per hectare, they store a lot more carbon than a forest does. So doing that is a huge benefit. Also, from a regional council perspective, I would like to slowly phase out the Belmont farms and replant those, because then again, you've got another massive source of carbon sequestration as well as revitalising biodiversity for the area.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Keeping on the green theme now, who would get your vote for Bird of the Year?
Well, I actually, this year, I would probably want to go with the Weka, but I do have a sort of...
Controversial.
I think they're one of the best birds New Zealand have. They're so underappreciated. They're flightless, yet they survive where so many of our native ones have not. They're tough sons of guns.
True.
But I also have a bit of a long-term plan for the yellow-eyed penguin, the hoiho, as well.
Okay.
Again, they're pretty critically vulnerable. The northern populations, at least, are really in a lot of trouble. Where I used to go camping growing up, there were 11 breeding pairs, and these are penguins that they're not particularly communal. Like when you think of penguins, you think of the big colonies. These just kind of exist in very isolated little communities. So there were 11 breeding pairs around this bit. Took Mary back to see it over the summer, and we could only find one breeding pair, and talking to some of the dock rangers around, they're declining. And it's a mix of dog attacks, possibly sedimentation making it harder for them to find food, as well as fishing in the area meaning they have to range further and further out. So I just would love to, over the long term, bring more awareness to what's going on with them and get them as bird of the year, because I think they're a deserving candidate.
Okay, well, I think you've just upped their voting results quite significantly. Now, how do you plan to better involve residents in decision-making processes within our city?
It is a very low bar already.
No comment.
So I guess a couple of things I would like to do is just, in terms of engagement, one of the things I've recently found out, I'm not entirely sure how 100% accurate it is, but it was a Don Post journalist who told me this, so I sort of have a reasonable amount of faith in it. But Regional Council currently don't have to declare their votes, how they voted on any issue, so that would be the first thing I would do, is make sure all my votes, if elected, were publicly available with a rationale why, because I think it's important to understand that as well. And then also just going along to the various community board events. I know there's been shocking representation of that at Wainui and Mata, as well as Petone. I've heard some things from various Petone community board people who are on that they think there could be better representation for the regional council, and it goes beyond that as well, just coming along to the different meetings, being involved with the community, doing what they do. I'm part of Friends for Waiwetu Stream as well as Kaikoura Environmental Group, so I would love to carry on doing that stuff, not necessarily as a councillor, even if I am council, because it's something I'm passionate about, but just doing those sorts of things. You talk to people, you get to know what the issues are, and responding as well would be the other thing, in a timely fashion.
Listening and
Yes.
transparency. This is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I think that's one of the things, because I do not want a political career. It's not why I'm getting into this. I sort of see a need for change, but I feel politicians talk far too much and do not listen nearly enough. So listening is a great way to make that very succinct.
Okay, and on listening, do you have a go-to karaoke song?
Yes, Heroes by David Bowie.
Oh, nice choice.
Yeah, I believe there is some video footage out there somewhere of that from several different bars as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, okay, well, that's pretty much all the time we've got. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. So, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Tune in if you are a candidate standing for council. Come in and contact me in the messages, and we'd love to do this with you too. We'll have you on the hot seat and on the sofa. See you soon. Bye.
Ka kite.